Hello, gamers, viewers, and friends. This is your host, Pretty Guardian. Last month, I renewed my subscription to Xbox Game Pass, which is a monthly service that gives you access to hundreds of games on the Xbox console and also on PC. After trying out a few duds, I saw that Hades was on their game list. Hades is a game that came out back in 2020 and was released by Supergiant Games. Supergiant is a San Francisco-based game developer with years of experience making interesting and atmospheric action RPGs, such as Bastion or Transistor. Hades is their most recent game where you take on the role of Zagreus, the son of Hades, on his action-packed dungeon crawl out of the depths of hell and into the mortal world. To this day, Hades has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. And to be forewarned, my review of the game is also going to be overwhelmingly positive. I had numerous friends recommending this game to me. I was still skeptical though. I'm not crazy about action RPGs, roguelikes, dungeon crawling. If this game had not been offered to me through Game Pass, I would probably never have given it a shot. But let me tell you that I'm so glad that I did. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my review of Hades, focusing on the music, graphics, gameplay, and story that came together into this masterpiece. Then I'm going to explain why I believe this game was able to win me over where other games of its kind did not. The soundtrack of Hades is distinctive from other games. It has a rock-like quality to it with lots of guitar riffs and other stringed instruments such as the lute that gives the music a vibe that is both perfect for killing shades in Tartarus and pays respect to the idea that this game takes place in Greek mythology. I loved how during fights, the music would pick up and I'd be rocking out and fighting monsters, and the song would be looped in such a way that it would continue on as long as it needed to, and then wrap up at the end of the fight. And this attention to the pacing of the song actually made those fights feel more thrilling. When talking about working on the soundtrack, Supergiant's audio director talked about practicing his instrumental skills to be able to play music that was of a higher quality than what he normally plays. That level of dedication and desire to go above and beyond absolutely comes across in the finished work. In a way, it's also thematically fitting to what Zagreus is trying to do, as he builds up his skills and powers as a godling during the course of the game.
So right now I have riffs that I think are cool. I need to get better at so I can play them well enough to sound good. Because I'm trying to write stuff that's slightly beyond my normal comfort zone of stuff I like to play on guitar,
The graphics in Hades were also phenomenally done. Starting with character designs, there is a great use of silhouette, line, and color when crafting the characters. For example, with Zagreus, you can easily strip his principal colors back to black, red, and gold. His form is diminutive enough that other characters such as Hades feel more big, powerful, and threatening, but he's also muscular enough that he's believable as a hero of legend. And you see some of his powers reflected in his form, like with his glowing feet connecting to his dash ability. All of the gods and lead cast members in the game have designs that feel similarly thoughtful. The different biomes that we travel through all have their own distinct feel of colors, layouts, and enemies that we fight. There is an attention to detail in this game that makes each area feel so much more impactful than just a regular dungeon. You can see it in the wisps of smoke from candles, or the shadow of bats flying by in Tartarus, or even the elaborate summoning circles that appear when enemies are teleporting into the fight. For the research I was doing in creating this video, I watched an excellent development vlog about the game. I'll link it in the description box for this video, but I did want to share this next clip because particularly when they share the detailed image of the weapons, I think it illustrates how dedicated their team was when looking at the small stuff that could be overlooked or taken for granted.
We move forward and I create orthogonals, which is just the front, the back, the side, and call outs to whatever details may seem confusing or may may not make a lot of sense in the isometric. I have to problem solve around like, how do the joints work on this like pauldron and how does it actually attach? And then
let's talk about gameplay. The game starts with Zagreus diving out of his bedroom window to make his daring escape from the underworld. When you first leave the bedroom, you're greeted with a random boon from one of the gods of Olympus who are seeking to help Zagreus in his escape. This boon is a glowing orb that grants Zagreus some kind of buff or power, such as Zeus changing Zagreus' cast ability into a lightning bolt, or Athena granting him the use of her shield to protect him when he uses his dash ability. From this point, Zagreus makes his way through different chambers on his way to the surface. Most of the chambers involve him beating a number of enemies and then collecting a reward. But as you play through, you'll find a variety of chambers, such as shops, resting spots, or special events. Early on, these dungeon runs will typically end with Zagreus being killed when you eventually find an enemy strong enough, or are beaten down enough that they're able to finish the job. But wait, this defeat was by design. Zagreus awakens in a pool of blood back at his house in Tartarus, where he's able to talk to the members of the household, spend resources that he gathered during the dungeon run to boost his household or himself up for the next run, then head out into the pavilion behind his room, and now you have options for more weapons to use on your next run. Each time you play through, you're given new weapons, new boons, new dialogue to uncover, and other new elements that keep these runs feeling fresh, even after you've done them dozens of times. The story is a relatively simple concept that's drip-fed to us during these runs. Sometimes it's a memory or flashback, sometimes it's a bit of dialogue, which has noteworthy voice acting, by the way. It makes a meaningful use of Greek mythology and lore, while also building up the personalities of all the characters in the game. And eventually, you get a bigger picture of the events that led up to Zagreus making his escape, what his motives are, and what's happening with his crazy family drama around him. Generally speaking, I don't like playing male characters in games. Particularly in the JRPG world, making my own character isn't usually an option. So I tend to play games like Tales of Arise, where they have multiple women in the party, over something like Final Fantasy 15, where that isn't an option. I also avoid games like Gothic or Elex for this reason. I could probably make an entire video diving into the why I feel this way, but let's just sum it up with, that's my preference. Still, that all being said, I thoroughly enjoyed playing as Zagreus, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge his character design as a big reason for that. Visually, he was fundamentally smoother and sleeker than someone like Kratos from God of War, and this sort of differentiation from what I typically see in male protagonists was further enhanced by the gameplay and story. Fighting as Zagreus felt good as the animations were smooth and the different weapons were impactful. Going in, I thought I might find myself favoring a particular weapon, but each of them were so varied and powerful that while there were a couple I enjoyed, I still found myself rotating frequently without a second thought about it. I also really enjoyed his personality and the narrative beats that he was in. At this point, I've touched on this concept a couple of times now, but let me specifically call out why this game is so incredible. It is a masterclass in execution. When conceptualizing this video, I actually had a hard time talking about each piece of this game, such as the art or music, because everything is so intrinsically connected that not only is each component well done, but the game itself is elevated to a new level by that high quality execution. I've heard people frequently talk about how modern games are soulless and boring. In many ways, this feedback is so nebulous. What gives a game its soul? Moreover, what in a game would make each person playing it, with their own subjective experiences of the game, acknowledge that soul? I think it starts with the passion of the people creating the game pushing themselves to do something new with art, music, creation in general, and then exercising the level of care required to deliver a finished game that is more than just a minimum viable product. Part of me was impressed that an indie studio like Supergiant was able to make a game that was this good, maybe even genre defining. But when I thought about it, I think the fact that they are an indie studio is exactly why they are able to produce something this good when a big company could not. When I play something like New World, it feels like a company took an algorithm and said, players like games with X, Y, and Z in it, and then proceeded to make X, Y, and Z without any thought into how they are going to do X, Y, and Z better than anyone else has, how doing those things will push the individual creator to grow, or how those systems should interconnect to actually be fun and not just a soulless clone of the games we have seen so many of. I'm not saying that to knock New World. I actually really like the game and think it has many great qualities. But Supergiant was able to bring together individuals who are excellent in their respective crafts, and they were small enough that those individual contributions mattered and the completed game was important to them on a personal level and not just as part of a business algorithm. If you've made it this far in the video, I'm guessing that you at least marginally enjoyed it. If you did, please leave me a like. You can subscribe if you'd like to be the first to know when I release new videos. In the comments section, let me know what your thoughts on Hades are, or what games you think capture that high quality execution that we talked about. Thank you for watching along today, and I will see you in the next one.